KLTV soundcheck, KLTV soundcheck.
Morning meeting of the BOCC. If you want to join me, I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Weber is fighting illness today, so he won't be joining us. Mr. Mortensen, review of the minutes.
Good morning. Yes, as usual, I reviewed the minutes of the activities last week and I move to approve those minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve last week's minutes. Any comments, corrections?
You notice if I repeat the same phrase time and time again, I get closer to being fluent.
Yeah. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Today, I will point out, we have a public hearing at 9:30, so we'll be cognizant of that. I'll run down through consent agenda. I will ask, you had some comments on item 2 yesterday. Do you want to leave that on consent, or did you want to move that to motion? And
Oh, good question. Thank you for that. I would prefer to move that
over to motion?
To the
Okay.
motion agenda.
Okay, so we'll move that item number 2, the call for bids, over to a motion item. Okay, with that adjustment, I'll read down to the rest of the consent. We're calling for a public hearing for a proposed amendment to the 2024 budget for the creation of a new fund for cafe food service. And that public hearing is scheduled for August 20th at 9:30 in the morning. We're trying to put some food service back in the Hall of Justice like it used to be. And then it kind of disappeared. I think it disappeared during COVID and we haven't had anything there since. Agreements, contracts, bid awards. Contract with Specialized Pavement Markings for the 2024 Joint Agency Pavement Striping Project. This is approximately 279 miles of center line and 469 miles of fog lines on various county roads. Total amount is $718,457.50. Item 4 is 4 and 5 are deal with construction projects. Mitigation credit buy-sell agreement with Cowlitz Mitigation Partners for use of the Weeman River Mitigation Bank to satisfy the wetland and critical area impacts of the South Cloverdale Road Improvement Project. Cost of that is $21,995. Item 5 is same thing, only on the Allender Road Bridge Replacement Project, and the cost for that is $37,100. We can do that mitigation ourselves, but it's like a seven-year commitment to us to monitor and stuff, and we just find it easier to pay an outside the outside mitigation bank to monitor that for us. Item 6, an agreement with DebtBook for debt management software to be more efficient and financial reporting and compliant with Government Accounting Standards Board. Total cost $24,000 for a 1-year period. In item 7, a retirement letter dated 7/30/24 to Wendy DeLapp, congratulating her on over 35 years of service in the prosecutor's office. And that's the consent agenda. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, maybe Susan Eugenis can answer a couple of questions. And a couple of questions lead to another couple of questions.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm curious about the striping. And one of the elements of curiosity is, why is the fog line not twice the center line markings?
Because not all of our roads have fog lines. So we do not put fog lines on some of the narrower roads without shoulders. So we have more center line miles than we have fog lane miles.
If I were to look at the county website someplace, I would find a street, roads that must have a fog line and the roads that don't.
We have.
Tell which one needs a fog line.
So we're in the process of updating everything. So we used to have it on a spreadsheet. And this past year and a half, we have been working on getting that into a GIS layer. So that is not currently public facing, but it is something that moving forward, we could make public facing. But right now we're working on updating our inventory and getting it drawn into GIS.
Who is the they?
So we have, so our sign crew maintains where our striping is, and they have been working with we have a GIS technician in Public Works, and that is a newer position. And she has been working on adding a lot of this data. We have newer web maps. If you go onto Public Works, you can do research on the right-of-way width right through maps on our webpage. We also have the stormwater areas mapped out with links to the stormwater codes that apply in the areas. We have a construction page where you can click on active projects and have the timeline and project description. So we are getting more of this information public facing. So until 2 years ago, the CRAB board required us to have all of our inventory was all in a database format. And so they have switched us over to a program they're calling Gizmo. And so they've pulled our data through. And that is one of the main jobs that our GIS technician has been working on, verifying all that data has come through correctly, working on pulling reports. So we can pull reports on what the roadway width is. We can find where our signs are, where culverts are, and we're verifying all of that data right now. And we've been adding all kinds of inspection apps for our inspectors and our stormwater. So we're really stepping up our GIS game in Public Works.
Thank you. And here all along, I thought those things happened just by magic. You're anxious for my next question?
Oh, of course.
Thank you. The Cowlitz mitigation partners, the problem they're trying to solve is succinctly?
So the recommendation for mitigation is if it's in a larger area, it actually functions better and gives better ecological return. So that is ecology's preference. Instead of us doing little spot mitigation sites here and there scattered around that are small. So they're trying to solve the problem for making it efficient for construction projects where we just skirt a wetland or impact the wetland, the buffer, that was the word I was looking for, where we impact the wetland buffer to give us a place where we can purchase it and it's on a larger scale and giving back better economic, better ecological returns.
Slight digression. I'm never quite sure what the rationale behind mitigation requirements, because the wetlands are here, they're not over there. And we're mitigating taking some wetland here by adding wetlands in the Mojave Desert. I mean, I don't know what I can picture it operates as a pressure point. It says, we don't want you to just wantonly use the wetland. So we'll put this hurdle in there. Is that the full strength or extent of the usefulness of that method?
Yes, they are trying to get us to not impact wetlands. And in the majority of county road projects, because we're not creating new roads, we're pulling abutments on bridges, because one of these is a bridge project. So obviously we have to work in that area. And then, or they're along a roadside that we're widening, or a culvert. In these two cases, it's mainly our culvert work where we're impacting wetlands, or we're widening the road and we don't necessarily touch the wetland. We get into the buffer, which we are required to buy credits for. Also, all of the wetland mitigation banks have service areas that are established by ecology. So if you're working in Camas, you cannot buy into the Cowlitz mitigation bank. I believe the line goes from some, like the peak of Green Mountain up to Cowlitz County line. It may go into Lewis County. I don't know the exact service area of it, but I do know that there are other banks that we can't buy into because we're out of their service area.
And all that complexity is handled by the mitigation
Yeah.
partners. And the chairman mentioned there's a multi-year obligation for them to follow.
So when you have wetland mitigation, so if we weren't buying credits and we had to create a wetland somewhere, then we would have to monitor that created wetland. And it depends on your permit. Sometimes it's 5 years, sometimes it's 7, and I've seen them up to 9. This wetland property, it is now established as a wetland area, a nature conservatory, deeded that way that it cannot be damaged, but they are required for a certain length of time to monitor and make sure that those wetland plants that they put in there and that new community they've created is thriving.
Now, in case there is a failure to meet the plan in the 5th year or something like that, who bears the burden of that?
So in theory, the wetland mitigation partnership, or is that was management company, would bear that burden. But you know how attorneys are, that could change. But that is the part of the point of buying these credits into the bank.
And for this price, we're buying the full extent of our obligation.
We're buying like 95% of our obligation. We do have some obligation to do some planting right in the area that we've disturbed. But basically, it's a wetland seed mix or willow stakes, but we don't have the same obligations of maintenance that they do at the wetland bank.
And then the last thing is there's always a last question. Sometimes people buy long-term care insurance with a company that then goes defunct. And then they're just SOL. What happens with the longevity of Cowlitz mitigation partners? We have confidence. Were there other people that bid, or is this a quasi NGO or something like that?
They have entered into a contract with Ecology. I've never heard of one of these going bankrupt because there are so many construction projects that are buying into it. And there are older ones than this one, and I've never heard of them having that issue occur.
Okay, thank you. Have I overlooked a question?
I think, not that I'm aware. Ron?
Thank you. Those
So
are,
it's interesting you mentioned creating these wetland areas. I observed driving around here in Clark County, we are creating numerous little wetlands with all of the stormwater retention ponds that are being built. In fact, we have a giant one down there along the bypass that the Diking District has that people buy into. Do we get any credit for those created wetlands?
So the one that the Diking District has, they got credits for it, and if you buy into it, you can get credits.
For water retention? What about wetland mitigation?
So the wetland mitigation, all of those sites are built by private developers or CDID1. So we would have to buy into something that CDID1 has.
We've already paid for it. We, the public and the contractors and the people building houses have already paid for it. So when you say buy in, I don't understand what that means.
So I'm not, I have not been involved in CDID1's detention facility that I know they built, but I know that that was their intent, that they spent the money and that when developers developed, they would pay CDID1 for that, and that would go back into CDID1's budget to use on their operations and maintenance.
So what I'm asking, can't that retention area be a dual function, meaning we've already paid for it and now you're paying extra here for wetland mitigations? Why can't we take credit for some of that of money that we've already paid as community and contractors and house builders?
I'm not aware of how we would buy into that, not being in the direct service area, because neither one of these projects is within the limits of CDID number 1.
Wouldn't it be worth it for us to see if there are some synergistic opportunities of wetlands and water retention areas that we are paying for?
That could certainly be looked into, but I know that was strictly developed as a detention facility for development within CDID number 1.
Yeah, CDI1 is, we've paid for it already. We pay for it, so is there opportunity for dual function, synergy?
Yeah, I think your statement is clear and it makes sense to us. I'll look into it, but I would implore you not to hold your breath. Because the way government operates, it partitions things into bins. They're not trying to solve a problem. They're trying to do other things.
Well, I'm here to help you to try to energize solving some problems with synergy rather than a pond here and a pond here and a pond there for different purposes. Thank you.
Completely appreciative of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as has been presented with the exception of item 2, which has been moved to the motion agenda.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Human Resources, Health and Human Resources.
Hey, good morning. Gina James, Health and Human Services. On the agenda today, we have an amendment to our consolidated contract with the Washington State Department of Health. The amendment is adding this year's funding of foundational public health services dollars. The legislature has approved this funding for the last few years to be allocated to counties. It comes to us in 2 payments throughout the year. So this is the first half of this year's allocation. The second half will come the first part of 2025. And it is a little bit different than our other sort of grants and contracts in that they do send the funding to us. And then at the end of the year, we reconcile and send back what we don't spend. This is the funding we've been discussing at Board of Health in terms of looking at different priorities and areas that we may be able to utilize this funding in, working with our Board of Health. Those conversations are continuing the end of August at the next meeting.
Can you list a few of the programs that fall under this foundational block?
Yeah, what it can be used for?
Yeah, or how we've used it, just a list to give a feeling.
Sure. So we currently, it funds just a few things. So we have this, the FPHS funding. There's a section that is allocated for Group B water testing. So we're able to provide testing for Group B systems in the community. We have also used some funding for increased TB work, TB cases that we've seen in the community and the work that we have to do around those cases. It's pretty intense and long-term and complicated. We also have a couple of positions that are paid for with this funding currently around infection prevention and environmental health work. So there's that's kind of the current scenario. There's what the funding can be used for overall is intended to fill in gaps for public health services in general, not to replace anything you're currently doing, but to fill in the gaps and expand what's going on, looking at the needs of your community and where we might be able to increase different health activities.
So this has a non-replacement requirement?
It's intended to enhance existing services.
Okay, so our expenses on a valid program cannot be replaced, cannot be paid for out of this because we're already paying for it out of some other program. Is that what that meant?
Yeah, I mean, it might depend on the specifics of what we're talking about, but the intention of it is to enhance existing services.
And how much are we talking about here?
The total allocation for this fiscal year is about 1.4 million. So this amendment is adding the first half, the 719,500.
You did arithmetic in public.
No, I found it on my sheet.
So we get those funds in, which is unusual. Usually they don't send us a lump fund,
Mhm.
some, and then what we don't use, we send back. And last year we sent about 900,000.
Yes, we just
Back.
sent that back a few weeks
Now,
ago.
I'm assuming when those funds come in, it sits in our accounts, probably goes into investments. Anything we earn off of that stays with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe
In
so.
that case, can you ask for more
Yeah.
and then return it at the end?
Yeah, we're, at least if we don't utilize it, and we have to send it back, we get to keep the earnings, everything off of that.
Yeah, I will double check because I didn't really think about it that way, but that's how it works with our other grants and contracts. So I assume this as well.
I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
probably valid.
Yeah.
Questions? Yeah.
Hi, how are you? Good morning. You can hear me?
Huh?
Okay. I've been like noticing this stuff about the water, all this water issues and the water being said at a Longview City Council recently, a meeting that they tested the water and it was fine. It is not fine. And we keep paying and paying and paying. And I've lived in Kelso, I've lived in Longview for years, and around my sink, around the faucet, we keep getting that silica. It is not going away. And it's got arsenic in it and other issues, and it needs to be fixed. And at the old Fisher's Lane water plant, which now is gone, that was when we had the best water. Anyway, so what are we really gonna do about this?
Well, the county's involvement in water systems is with the smaller systems, so private wells, Group B systems, which are smaller number of connections. Those larger systems like cities operate and own, they work directly with the state on those. So the county is not involved in those types of water systems.
So what, I'm trying to get it clear here. What part exactly is your county, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so what specific is it in this building that you work?
My office is over on 9th Avenue, the Health and Human Services building.
Oh, okay. So anyway, but you represent them, right?
Mhm.
So they represent the state.
No.
If you represent the county,
Mhm.
so what I'm saying is we are supposed to be grassroots, and then we represent, from town to county and then on up to the state. and so far, but I'm talking about the grassroots level. How do we fix it here to start with?
I mean,
I-
talk to where you live and who manages your water system, and then you can go beyond above who manages that, which in this case would be the city and then the state.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, well, anyway, yeah, because I know this is off issue for the moment, but anyway, I've been driving around on the roads and everywhere it's just getting worse and worse, and over in Long Beach, Washington Way, death. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the contract with the Washington State Department of Health to add foundational public health services funding for the new fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Any last questions, comments? Seeing none, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Also vote aye. Gina, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll tackle the item we moved over. I know that's building and planning. I see him back there.
Before we put that on the table, uh, I offer to just table it until 3 commissioners can take a look at it. I suspect you know that I am not positive on this, and I don't want to be, it's not that big an issue. I want to compliment building and planning for doing everything they can to make a friendly agency out of themselves.
Yeah.
And that's a really good thing. But to me, this is the kind of thing that is offering something that the public can really do for themselves and help themselves. And it exposes us to a fair amount of bureaucratic complication. There's always, regardless of what the fine print says, there's always the risk of going to a jury that says, well, you recommended and then you've got the big hassle of, I was on the list, you took me off the list, I'm going to sue you for that and so forth. And so I look at that as a cost versus a gain, or what we buy. And this is not a place where I would invest our staff time. So based on that, you know how I would vote. So
Yeah.
I don't want to be a stumbling block here. So before I make a motion,
If you want to pull that off till we have full commissioners, that's probably, I'm okay with that.
okay, any comments?
Good morning, gentlemen. Tracy Jackson, Building and Planning. Just to kind of counter what you had mentioned.
No, that's okay.
It's not a recommended list, and it's not something that we are preferring to work with. All it is basically a handout that they could get online or anywhere that we could just hand to the applicants as a way to help them through the process. It's not like a qualified list. It doesn't mean that we're recommending anybody. It is a professional services list,
You do
nothing
think-
more.
You do think I know that, right?
I know. I
Okay.
know you know. I'm just announcing it to the public. We're just trying to compile all of the means that we have to help an applicant, because about 90% of what we do helping the applicant at the counter, they could find that their own. They could help themselves online. Everything we have fillable forms, we have everything we have. We try to make it easier for the applicant, but it's just one more tool in our tool belt that we can either point them to, hand out to them, or offer up for them. Nothing more.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table this item for a date in the future when all three of us are here.
Okay,
I need to specify a time, and I'm looking at the clerk.
it would be not next Tuesday, but the following one. Be the 13th.
That'd be fine with me.
Okay.
Okay.
So we got a motion
you.
to table till the public meeting on the 13th.
Okay, and it's just a call for qualification or a statement of qualifications.
gotcha.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Any questions, comments? Call for a vote on the table?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, guys. Let's see. Couple things before we head into public comment. We've got quite a few things coming up. Tomorrow at 2:30, we have ARPA update. We go through those every so often. We just did one of those not that long ago. But okay. Thursday, August 8th, Board of Health application deadline. That's the last day. Monday, August 12th will be the first, it's a Board of Health interview date. It's at 8 a.m. in the morning. Wednesday, August 14th, we have Habitat for Humanity and Veterans Advisory Board in, and that's a 2:30 workshop on Wednesday. Tuesday, August 20th, 10 a.m. is another date for Board of Health interviews. And one other update, I've mentioned the last couple of weeks, there's been talk on the juvenile center and what we're trying to do over there with conversion and help with juvenile treatment and mental health. The small committee I put together looked at the plan drawings yesterday that our architects brought up. And so we will be, and I don't know when that date will be, we will be scheduling a workshop that'll have the architects in, and as I committed to my colleagues, that we'll present it to the full commissioner board and they'll get a chance to look at that. So that will be coming up, although I don't have a date for you at this point in time. We're past 9:30, so let's head right into the public hearing, Kathy. Sorry, I took some of your time.
Kathy Fent Baxter, Finance Director. Not a problem. We have an allocation of funds that's for the Federal Forest Title III funds. And in May 14th, 2024, we requested the commissioners to authorize us to solicit for applications that would be eligible for this funding. And that was done. We've had our 45-day comment period. And so we are here today to present and recommend allocation of $12,000 to Cowlitz County Fire District 6 and 3. They're joining in their application, and they are requesting funds to provide emergency services to SR 504 area east of the Kidd Valley to the Johnson Ridge Visitor Center. And then in addition to that, we also have a request for the Cowlitz County Sheriff's Office for $8,000 to provide essential equipment towards the search and rescue operations.
So, and that pretty much uses up, we don't get a ton of funds out of this. So
Right. So
that
we have a
uses the
total of
funds.
$20,000 that we're allocating this year.
So you actually had, from our conversation yesterday, you actually had 3 applications come in. One was not correct. You gave them the opportunity to amend it, but they chose not to.
Right.
So these were the 2 that came through. Any comments, questions from us? I'll open the public hearing for any comments, questions from the public. See none? We'll close that.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the recommendation that has been presented to us to allocate the funds in $12,000 to Fire District 6 and 3 combined, and then to the sheriff's office, the $8,000.
We have a motion to approve. Last chance. See nobody approach, no hands. Call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Also vote aye. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay. It's all yours. Any comments, questions?
I have a question. After yesterday's discussions about the parks, do you know roughly how much money the county spends repairing vandalism and the damage to, say, all the parks or maybe just even Riverside? What's the expense for doing repairs and cleaning up the mess?
You don't have any of that off the top of your head. I don't have that figure.
Okay,
That's a good question.
Yeah, we can get that, Steve.
Okay.
So this is public comment for anything?
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, my name is Rose Ruiz and I live out in West Longview. Anyway, so I drive around in a 2000, early 2000s Explorer, and it's got stickers all over it, as some people call it. Anyway, I play a lot of Toby Keith's courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue. But anyway, I'm just here to represent our people that are campaigning to do good for our bootstraps on the ground, grassroots, and so on and so forth for our campaigns and everything and our flag waving, but for patriotic Christians throughout the world. Anyway, in the time I've been volunteering and getting to know everybody throughout I'd say the last 3 or 4 years, I've gotten to know a young man. Well, to me, he's young. His name is Joe Kent. And recently I learned that he wrote a book, and this is it. It is called Send Me. Now his wife, his deceased wife, Shannon Kent, I believe it's Senior Petty Chief Officer Shannon Kent. Anyway, she was killed in the line of duty over in Syria. And nevertheless, reading this book has brought a lot of things to my attention about war that I never thought I would understand. And she was a linguistic specialist. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But nevertheless, there's so many things in this book that covers so much stuff. It's Send Me, the true story of a mother at war, a gripping story that transcends the battlefield, illuminating the intricate balance between love, duty, family, and sacrifice. Jack Carr. This is by Marty Scoblin Jr. and Joe Kent. Anyway, it's it's almost like 300 pages long. But when you put this book down, it took me 2 days to read it. And I'm actually reading it again so I can understand it even better. But it's hard to bear your soulmate being hurt, because there was a situation she was in over there, and I think it's called Manjib, Syria. And there was like one of those vests, the ones, what do you call those vests? Are either one of you veterans? I'm sorry. The ones that
I call them flak jackets, but
the ones that they pull the thing and it just blows them up. Okay. I'm
Well-
sorry, I should know it from this book and anyway, the deal is when they, basically execute themselves to get rid of you, will somebody bypass these people over there and because I thought she got blown up, and I'm not saying she didn't, okay? But somebody that from over there went to another person, because when the fire from the ammunition comes off in your ear in real life, you don't have ear protection on, okay? Everything, I've been where I've had it go up close to myself, and it just changes everything. What you see, it goes in slow motion. But anyway, somebody managed to tell the one guy, there's a lady underneath that vehicle right there. Anyway, long story short, it was Shannon Kent. And she was trying to get to the point of being the senior chief petty officer at that rank. And lo and behold, through her own sacrifice, they actually ended up giving her those honors. But it took her death. And nevertheless, Joe has been committed. He ended up retiring because their two sons needed him at home. And so anyway, I just want to let you people know that this book to me is a must read, because there's so much good information in here. In the back, there's notes, and in the front, there's stuff like that. But nevertheless, I wouldn't promote people that don't truly care. He was in there, he was fighting for our country to get rid of ISIS, because I really didn't even understand what ISIS meant. And now I have a better understanding, and I will fight to my last breath to keep our nation in peace. And the only way to peace is for God and us and more people out there, you pastors and you preachers and you ministers, all you people of the Lord, you need to get out there and let the public know how much Christ loves us. Anyway, and in the Bible, it does talk about politics in the Bible. Yes, it does. Nevertheless, I thank you so much for your time and for letting me share this with you. God bless you.
Morning, Commissioners. With regard to the topic yesterday that Mr. Farrell brought up, I drove to Haydu Park yesterday to see what the Port of Kalama has done for their park. And that park is surrounded by a fence, and it's on a timer. It closes at dark, and their bathrooms are very, very well kept. They also lock, I believe, on a timer at that time. So when you do your cost analysis, looking at what the county is spending on repairing those, maybe look at, what that would cost to surround Riverside Park with a fence with gates and things that close and open. So I just thought I would let you know that.
Sure.
If I might take my previous discussion a little further in detail, is that my experience in agriculture and ranching and things like that says that mitigation areas or water retention areas or other, they have a very similar function. It's the specification that's put in place when they're doing it. For instance, whether you're putting grass in or whatever, and if you have to have some water retention or whatever, to have a wetlands mitigation area also suffice as water retention area, et cetera. So I'm just elaborating a little bit. You offered that you would check into it, Arn. The real check would be with the diking district, what is the specification they have to meet, and what is the specification that the mitigation area has to meet? A very simple example in agriculture. I'm raising alfalfa. Alfalfa takes a long, deep root and it takes a long time to grow. And so you got to protect it from the predators. Of course, we like to eat alfalfa sprouts. All the birds and everything else like to eat alfalfa sprouts also. So the wild turkeys will come in and clear a whole field. So you plant barley or another fast growing crop in there. The barley grows up, shelters it. You come in and harvest the barley, just like everything else. And now the alfalfa has a start. It's the creation of the specification. And I'll use synergy again. dual function for things that we're already paying for.
Yes, hello, it's Rosa Ruiz again. Anyway, I wanted to let you know that driving down these roads in Longview and Kelso and Cowlitz County, but in Longview and Kelso and noticing the signs and stuff are like getting so old, you can't even like really see them, you know, like part of it. And the roads are just a mess. And like you get new people in office and they think they're gonna fix it. I've lived around here all my life and it's like pretty much the original one, the Civic Circle, the original when they had the 2 lanes. It was like, it was fine then. Then somebody comes in. Anyway, I drove down maybe a week ago through Washington Way and like from like the lake down Washington Way. And I think I finally took a right at Miller's Market. But that whole area down there and then putting the bike paths in or wanting to. Anyway, I've decided I'm going to try to figure out how to learn about how they actually make the roads, what materials they use. And I think it's time to start schooling myself on getting to know what kind of materials they use to make this stuff last longer because it keeps costing and costing and costing. And I think as taxpayers are really, you know, we can't afford it. Look what kind of economy under these Bidenomics we're going through. But nevertheless, yeah, I might just have to take it upon myself to go ahead and learn this stuff because the more you know, knowledge is good for you. Do you know the old saying about knowledge? No? How about you, Arn? I mean,
There is-
Commissioner Morris, I'm
There,
sorry.
there are any number of
Knowledge is power. That's it. Thank you, Lord. Anyway, thank you. I just wanted to share that with you.
I was going to say there are any number of sayings related to knowledge.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones is from a Richard Feynman quote about somebody who was expounding on the names of things, and it was Feynman said, "You can know the name of a bird, but that doesn't mean that you know anything about the bird." And we very often confuse the quick off-the-cuff trivia thing for being important. And it is a piece. It's not the important piece. Putting the data together in a sensible way is where the wisdom comes in. Sometimes clairvoyance. I do remember in a, well, never mind. You said you weren't able to hear?
Yeah, it's kind of hard for
Oh.
some reason.
I didn't say anything important.
Thanks a lot. Anyway, thank you guys.
Mhm.
But knowledge is power. Just make sure you got to double check it, etc.
There has been conversation at Longview City Council on what they're doing with the roads and some of that stuff you're asking about. We don't really tackle Longview stuff over here, but Longview Council has addressed some of that. So I know there is some of that information out there. I couldn't tell you exactly when and where to find it, but there is some of that out there.
Yeah, you actually bring out a point. We don't tackle it, not because we don't want to, but we're not allowed to, even if we did want to. And that is something, we overload the meaning of the county. There's the county, and we're all in the county, whether you live in Longview or not. But from a jurisdiction standpoint, Longview is somewhat independent because of its size. It operates under different regulations than its neighbor Kelso. And you'll see that reflected in all kinds of regulations. So jurisdiction lines are pretty important. My attitude has always been, I don't try to mind your business, and I think that's a cleaner way to do it. If we start to invade a municipality, there could be no end to bad things that happen from that.
Anything else? Okay,
I do have a
yeah,
question. Has anybody contacted you about what guidelines we have for the Board of Health interviews? I know there's a set of standard questions and then there can be follow-up, but it's,
no, I have not been
okay.
contacted. I'm wondering how it's going to work because it's, we tried to incorporate the questions that the state wants
Yeah,
common
that-
amongst all applicants into the application itself. But then the full Board of Health does the interview. When you have Board of Health members that are actually on both sides of the ledger, it's going to be a different dynamic. And I'm not sure how it's going to go.
Yeah, and let's say we figure that out. I think I'm in favor of having the board members volunteer to ask a follow-up question on the standard questions.
Yeah,
And then we are faced with how long do we let that go on kind of issue. And then let's say we get a system and it works fine, and then we're right at the end and we've got 9 applicants or so, I think. What do we do then? We take a public vote, applicant A. Who's in favor of applicant A? Well, you can't really do that too well because the applicants are applying for one of 3 slots. So we'd have to do by slot.
I think it would be cleaner by slot, the applicants and that. And the recommendation has to come from the Board of Health, to my understanding.
Yeah,
Then it comes to the commissioners who make the final determination. So
I assume that we, the Board of County Commissioners, would vote in a subsequent meeting.
that's the way I understand it.
Okay. And
We-
the board is not obligated to sustain and to uphold any recommendation. The board is advisory at that point.
Right. That's the way I understand it also.
Okay. And the thing I'm worried about is what the clerk is going to do. You can imagine that if there's 6 of us and we each get an opportunity to ask one question per candidate, it's almost very difficult to get a question done and answered, because these aren't going to be trivial questions. These are going to be substantive questions. 3 minutes times 6, that's 18 times, say, 10 candidates. I'm already up to 3 hours. And will all candidates be sitting out there as the one candidate is in the hot seat? Will they be sequestered? Complicated too. 2 of the candidates, no, one. Two of the candidates will be on the board, and they have to ask themselves questions. If the public gets the impression this is all well thought out, you're spot on. That's your invitation to make a comment.
Anything else?
Well, I'm getting my exercise today. Thank you. Yeah, going out and about and just chatting with different people. You know, I don't really know them, just people just chatting, and then you get involved in chattery, I guess you could call it. But something that's really came up a lot, and it breaks my heart. And it's very much needed to be looked into. It's called crimes against humanity. All the child and sex trafficking that's going on in the world today, and right here locally and everywhere. Anyway, we need it to be looked into. And videos I've seen where they've helped a child and got them looked at in a hospital, and then they turned around and gave them back to the child, back to the police. And in that area, the police turned around and gave the child back to their sex trafficker. And so I'm just saying that was a different area than here. It was a different state. But this stuff happens everywhere. I've been hearing about Oregon, and I know places in Washington State. And please, I plead with anybody with any power that, you know, anybody's child, doesn't matter. If your child, your niece, nephew, grandchild, whatever, children, and even the adults that are going through this stuff, it's got to come to a stop. And one thing, Rick, over the years, I noticed that you've said is like people talk about all these things about drug problems. And you're right, because you have said on a number of occasions that is not going to stop. As long as we're on this earth, it isn't going to stop. It's there, period. And for those people, some have issues and some don't, because some people can take the same medicine and another person can take that same medicine, but they can't handle it in the same way the right one can. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so when I see people that are homeless, I don't look at them like they're better, or, you know, I'm better than them, because tomorrow, today, I could be homeless. We never know when God's gonna take us or when something's gonna happen to us. And when I see somebody, and if I can help them, I try my best to do that. That's what we're supposed to do. And since this pandemic happened, it's like everybody's so afraid of their own shadow. And it's sad because we're supposed to treat thy neighbor as thyself. Love thy neighbor as thyself. But you also, you know, want to have discernment when you help other people too, so you don't, you know, mess up. But nevertheless, I plead with you all to help stop this human trafficking and sex trafficking stuff, and the organ harvesting, and the torturous, all the torturism that goes on out there. It's extremely deeper. It's like the deep pits of hell. It's horrible. Anyway, thank you for letting me speak for the voiceless.
Thank you.
God bless.
Mr. Chairman, this reminds me, we have an election ongoing, and the auditor is online she could provide us an update, because I think it ties into the fact that a lot of our choices are dictated by the public when they're at the ballot.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Carolyn.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for having me on. I don't have my camera since my webcam is in my office and I'm sitting at the elections counter. But I did want to give you a return rate, current turnout, and maybe compare it to the most recent election. So as of yesterday, our turnout was 9.63%. We have not even hit 10%. So I went back to 2020 and first compared the ballot in the primary in 2020, and they're very comparable. The length of the ballot, I was a little concerned that maybe it was fatigue, that people didn't, that they were just confused maybe and weren't completing the ballot, or maybe taking longer, but 2020 was very comparable. And on yesterday of 2020, we had already reached a 17% turnout. So that's more than double what we're seeing this year. Not exactly sure what to attribute that to. just wanted to provide you with the turnout numbers.
Also, you're doing registration still for the voters?
Yeah, state law allowed anybody to register online or by mail up to yesterday, but beginning today, they have to come into the office in person. But we have election day registration in Washington State, so they can come into the office in person right up until election day at 8 p.m.
So last week I could have gone online and registered.
Absolutely. And we had a lot of people making those transactions right up till 5 p.m. yesterday.
What kind of numbers are you looking at per day, say?
So we make these online transactions, which creates new ballots, right? So if you move either from county to county or even inside county, or you're new to the state, it triggers a new ballot. So we complete those transactions and then we would print new ballots and send them out. And we're looking at probably anywhere from 30 to 100 a day for the last couple weeks.
Wow, that's staggering. And so those ballots, you say that window closed yesterday, right?
Yes, and now they're required to come into the office in person to make those changes, but can
Now,
still
when-
make.
Yeah, when they do that, they can get their ballot right then and there, and they can actually cast their ballot right then and there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the ones that registered online, their ballot will get in their hands in 2 days?
Depending on the jurisdiction in which you live, we understand that in some areas like Riderwood and it seems like Kalama even, it takes a little bit longer to reach you, but I typically say 3 business days.
Okay, so you can expect 2 weeks worth is another 1,000 ballots maybe?
No, I do not think that we will see the same number of transactions. People don't want to come in person. I think we've had one all day today. Today was the first day of in-person registrations. They're happy to go online or send it in by mail or even visit your fair booth and make those changes and have somebody else turn it in. But very, very few in-person transactions, just one so far today.
No, I meant that of the ones that registered online, there might be as many as 1,000 ballots there that haven't yet been sent in.
Yeah, actually, I could probably pull those numbers and get those to you sometime today.
Well, I'm just trying to exhort the public to realize when they ask for things that they hear from us frequently, you know, we're operating under RCWs, which are handed down to us and so forth. And the ballot is your opportunity to set things straight. So we need you to come to the ballot and just try and set things straight.
Yeah, election law has evolved very rapidly since 2019, and a lot of people are somewhat unaware. In the good old days prior to 2019, we had sealed periods where voter registration was officially closed, no transfers, new registrations. Used to be 30 days prior to an election, then it moved to 18. Now we have election day registration.
So a quick update, when will the public hear the outcome of this election?
So we're preparing ballots, but we're not allowed to tabulate until exactly 8 p.m. So it takes us a few minutes to pull the results onto a thumb drive and then take it to a network computer to upload it. I'd say between 5 and 10 minutes. So you can expect to see the first results published within 10 minutes by 8:10 p.m. on election night, the 6th.
Okay, and then this certification will take us to another 3 weeks?
I believe it's 14 days for a primary, which would be August 20th.
Okay, and typically, how many ballots get adjusted or recounted in some way in that interval?
So if you're asking about challenges that the canvassing board reviews,
Yeah.
it's a very small percentage, less than 1% typically. So I would say, you know, maybe 100 or 150 ballots that the canvassing board would review, but I suspect that that number will be less with the new signature challenge laws going into effect this election.
If I'm the most silly of the voters or make the most mistakes, by the time my ballot gets accepted by you, you will have contacted me 2 more times, one to say you didn't sign it or something like that, and another time to say, please come and verify your signature. How many times are you going to try to honor my ballot?
Oh, you got that right. We will contact you multiple times and via various methods. If you've provided us a phone call, we'll call you. If you've provided an email, we will email you. If you've signed up for text alerts, we will text you and we will mail you a notice. So you're going to be contacted via all methods that you've provided, and you may be contacted twice before we remedy the ballot.
Okay, may I speak? May I speak? Rose Ruiz again here.
Hi, Rose.
Did Carolyn say that anybody can vote? Anybody can register to vote?
Are you asking?
Carolyn, yeah, are you saying anyone can register to vote?
Anyone eligible can come in to register up until 8 p.m. on election day in person.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to ask this because of people getting so-called quote unquote government issued IDs, which we don't have a government, we have a regime right now, IMO, thank you, and facts otherwise too. But nevertheless, because I myself haven't even received a ballot yet, so, and then doing things on the computer, we don't really know who's on the other end. And I know this last election, I know of people that voted and weeks went by even after the election and they had to come back in and do stuff. So anyway, I have to check into some more things, Carolyn. Thank you for your time.
Hey, I'm concerned, Rose. You should have received your ballot by now, so please don't leave the building. Please come downstairs. We're going to hand you a replacement. There's no reason you should not have received a ballot yet.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn.
Can I ask a question, Carolyn?
Hi, Rob. Yes.
Hi. When will the statewide races be tabulated and have a result?
So the state races are combined with the local races. So we tabulate them all together and they're printed on one ballot. So all will be published on August 6th, shortly after 8 p.m.
So
Of Cowlitz County.
So the statewide races, I mean, for the entire state, when will we be able to see results statewide?
Okay. Yeah, so if you have been onto our website and you look at the results page, we give you 2 different results because our public likes to see both views, both just Cowlitz County and also statewide. So if you're looking at just our PDF that we put up on the main page, that will only show you Cowlitz County results. But if you look at the online results, that has a link at the bottom that says combined county results, starting as soon as other counties start uploading their results at 8 p.m., those results are going to continue to be fluid until certification. So all counties will be adding to them on a daily basis. But you can always click that link that says combined county results under each race starting at 8 p.m. on election night.
Thank you very much.
Good question. Well, I appreciate you giving me some time, everybody. And if you didn't get a ballot, please come see us.
Okay,
If you
Carolyn.
would like printed information, we have taken the state candidate statements and photos and we've copied them onto regular copy paper. We're happy to provide that to you for anybody that wishes it.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, seeing none, we will adjourn. Thanks for your participation.